Hey, welcome back to edtech by Meera. Today we are going to see what's the main difference between parameters and arguments when you're using Python functions. As you already know, in order to create Python functions, we use define or def, and using that we create a function. So let's take an example to explain further. It's a very simple difference and it's something basic explanation, but you need to know because many people use arguments and parameters just like that, so many times you don't know the difference. So that's the reason I'm explaining it here. So let's create a function called myPet, and here there are two variables in here inside the parenthesis while you're creating the function. This is the stage of creating the function using define, and the name of the function is myPet. So what are these variables, name and age, inside the parenthesis while you're creating it? These are the parameters. From the function perspective of Python, these are the parameters, though many times we developers use the term arguments for this also. There's a very small difference, but I thought you should know, so that's why I'm explaining. So name and age in this perspective, in this particular example, when you're defining or creating a function, is called the parameters. So two parameters, name and age. After that, you use the print function as usual to print out whatever statement you want. So in this case, I'm keeping it simple. So I'm just saying print name and age, name comma age. Now name and age are the variables also which we create as the means of making in order to make them as parameters. So when you say print these two variable name or the parameters name, automatically once you call, it will be done. So after you do that, what you're supposed to do last, you're supposed to call the function. How do you call the function? As I've explained earlier, the name of the function is myPet. So just say myPet. Remember, myPet, and then inside the parenthesis here, you're not saying name and age. You're using the value of name, comma, value of age. That's the difference. Yeah, you have to make a string statement for the name, remember. Age value will be a number, so no need of string. So that is what is called the arguments. That means when you're calling the function with the two values which are inside, which you're passing while calling the function, those values are actually, technically, they are the arguments, though we tend to call the names that the variables that we pass while defining the function, we tend to call that arguments because there's a small difference only. But actually, technically, the values that you're passing while calling the function is the argument, or the arguments in this case, if there are more than one. So myPet, let's say name, like it could be Tiger, my cat's name, depending on the gender, it could be Gigi, Gigu, Mary, whatever name, string, and then comma, the age as in numbers. So I'm going to do that. So let's see how that's done. So as simple as that. So this is what you should know. So first we create the function with the respective required parameters, whatever, and then we call the function with the values of those parameters, and those are called, in other words, arguments. So this you should drill into your mind. If you drill this into your mind, the process of creating the function and calling the function, the difference between parameter and the arguments, you'll never ever make a mistake ever again. So that's why I'm giving you a mini example to make you understand. So the values, name of my pet is Gigu, comma, 16 her age. That's it. I just call the function with the arguments, which are the values of the parameters given above in the function creation process phase. So I'm just writing that as a comment here so that later you will also make it a habit to write comments. Just make it a habit to write comments so that these explanations, when you come back and try to remember and recollect, it's always there for you, waiting for you. So this is very simple. Right? You would have thought it's a very complicated explanation, but I took a simple example to make it simple and basic for you to know the difference between the arguments and the parameters. So let's call the function and see what's happening there you go. It gives you the reply outcome, Gigu and 16. As simple as that. So if you, in the argument, you can keep on changing the value. Instead of Giku, you can write something else. Instead of age, you can write something else and then call it. So because while calling, you can keep changing. You can call the function with different values for the parameters. But remember, it has to have two arguments because there are two parameters. So when you're calling the function, there has to be two arguments. If you do, like here, I'm purposely doing it with one argument, it will show you, the function will show you, the outcome will show you error message, required one position argument. So why? Because age is missing. So it will clearly show you what is the error. You have missed out on the age value. So this is very important to remember when you're calling. Argument has to be same in number as that of your parenthesis. I mean the parameters, sorry. So I've just written that point also in comment section, in comments as a comment, because you've given only one argument and you have to make sure that the number of parameters must match the number of arguments, or number of arguments need to be the same as the number of parameters in order to avoid this kind of buggy outcome or error in the outcome. So you have to remember this also while you're calling the function and putting the giving the values of arguments while calling the function. It's very important to keep this in mind. So I hope you understood the difference between parameters and arguments through this simple example. So here also I forgot to write define is creating a function. So I'm just writing a comment over there. When you're writing during your define stage, it's creating a function. So I just wrote the comment there. And I'm also writing another comment, like when you're calling the function, you're just writing the name of the function, and inside the parenthesis you're writing the values of the parameters, or rather you're writing the arguments itself, which is Gigu and 16 in this case. So calling the functions are shown below so that you remember this. It's so simple as that. This is how you should try to remember the code, and this is how you should understand how to do a particular code, like in a task, like for example, creating a function, calling a function, using parameters while creating and using arguments while calling. As simple as that. So if you repeat that in your mind 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, maybe 20 times, you'll remember it down the lane. There you go. I changed the value and the value will be reflected. Value of the arguments I changed here, the age and the name, and therefore it will be reflected in the outcome. There you go. It's changed the value. Gigi instead of Gigu, and 20 instead of 16. So there you go. So you can do that. So do subscribe. Remember to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And thanks to those who are staying subscribed, I'll be coming up with more explanations rather for concepts which I've not done earlier. And after that, I will be doing more projects accordingly. And for the next 2 weeks, it will be more of concepts because I'm in the process of moving my home. So please bear with me until that time. From after 2 weeks, I will get back to my projects again as usual. And do mention in the comment section if you're also interested in HTML tutorials, then I can start with that again. So see you in the next with more exciting lessons. Subscribe.